Sharifa Al Sagaaf. I'm a certified L&D expert and NLP coach and practitioner with over 11 years of HR experience. I've worked with some of the biggest names in retail, properties, hospitality, malls, having supported the L&D needs of about more than 5,000 employees. I'm a firm believer and I'm very passionate about people development and really enabling people to realize their true potential. And that's something that I want to touch on today. I'd like to start off by saying that at the moment, obviously, the biggest concern is obviously the job market has definitely been affected by the pandemic. And as an HR and L&D expert, what I wanted to do is share a few points on how us women can actually improve our chances of employment. And with that being said, what you find very often, as information is how do you apply for jobs and all of that. But something I wanted to look at is considering obviously tough times, everybody is fighting the same battle. And what we need to do is how to stand out. And that's something that very interesting was a topic that we heard throughout. Everyone had something different to say about how you can stand out as an individual, as a woman. But something I want to focus on is how can you stand out to make yourself different so companies can hire you. I've spoken to a lot of women, some of which are looking to change their jobs, or some of them looking to get employed. And the same thing goes as people are just looking at companies and blaming the companies. I understand that obviously, companies have control over the outcome of employment, but I think we're in control of our personal brand. And that's what makes you different. And that's why companies should hire you. So what I've done is I've packaged a solution in 3 simple steps, and I like to call it KSA. Not Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but knowledge, skills, and attitude, right? So I'll start off by the first one, which is the knowledge, right? The knowledge, I like to break it down into 2 parts. The first part is your self-awareness, is your emotional intelligence. I think some of the ladies have brought amazing things to say is, believe in yourself. It's about how you communicate, the visual, kinesthetic, auditory, how you communicate with people. This is all about, being emotional intelligent. That's very important. The second part is obviously your job knowledge. Now, considering obviously, COVID leading to a lot of restructuring, and, a lot of roles have restructured and changed the way, responsibilities or, the way we do things. Considering the fact that, training used to be in a classroom and now it's very often virtual. So we need to be able to learn new skills in order to adapt with all of the changes. So that's something that we need to be aware of, is knowledge on myself and my own, improving my own self-awareness, emotional intelligence, but also my job knowledge. What are my competitors doing? What do I need to learn, right? And then we go into the S, which is the skills. How do I put my learning to practice? Now, I just want to ask you a question to self-reflect. I'm sure many of us have been to a training and maybe even a conference, right? And a lot of times we're so inspired and so engaged to the point where we think, I'm going to make a difference when I get back. But what happens when we get back to the job is we don't actually make a difference. We continue where we left off because we forget. Right? So something I always ask people to do is create a goal, and not 10, not 5, not even 3, 1 or 2, because that makes it realistic, right? So have a goal to be able to apply whatever you've learned into what you're actually doing. And that way you get to use your skill. It becomes almost second nature, right? And realizing as well, what got you here won't get you there. We always need to change things. Sometimes I speak to people and they tell me, I have 13 years of experience, but a lot of companies have different ways of doing things, right? The way, companies used to work in the 2000s probably won't work the same anymore. So we need to keep adapting. Times are changing. I think the more with time, generation, kids are getting smarter. I feel dumber by the day. So people are getting smarter and we need to get on board. So last but not least is attitude. And attitude, I mean, working on your mindset, your motivation, what drives you. And I'll give you an example. You can have knowledge, right, which is the K, and you can have the skills, which is the experience. However, so with that being said, before I go into however, is I know how to do my job very well, right? I have the knowledge to do it and I have the experience because I've been doing it really well for so long. but I'm not doing very well at the moment. And that could probably be triggered by my attitude, meaning something related to whether it's my drive, my motivation, or my mindset. And that's something we need to work on. So we need to be able to change the way we think in alignment to achieve what we want. And that's something that I heard a lot from Fatima. We need to be able to open our mind and just think about, the fact that we can do it. Yes, we're not, sometimes we grow up being programmed to believe, or to grow up in a box, but sometimes we need to step away from the box. And sometimes our limitations are sometimes something that we create on our own. Sometimes your fear is what stops you, not the excuse that you give as a result of it. So it's so important to eliminate negative self-talk and just lead by example. So always remember KSA, right? So your knowledge, whether it's yourself internally, and as well as your knowledge when it comes to the industry, when it comes to your career, your job, and then you have your skills, putting your learning to practice, and your attitude, which is your mindset, your motivation, your drive. Matter of fact, research shows that people who are being coached and empowered exhibit 38% more discretionary effort. So that's just to prove the fact that, sky is the limit when you believe in yourself. So don't stop believing. And that's what I have to say.
That's amazing, Sharifa. Yes. So my question from you is that if you become a coach for your country, prime minister or president, and you are very passionate about women development, women entrepreneurship, financial independence. So what you will feed in their brain that can make a difference in, say, 1 year? If I visit your country, I come to know that women in the parliament, they have access to free education, free healthcare. Please go ahead.
So I think we're very lucky with the fact that earlier, I think when you were discussing, UAE, obviously there's a lot of powerful women leadership. It's very something that's spoken a lot, and we're encouraging women very often. I think something that I would do is, upon my years of experience, what I have realized is you will either find extremely ambitious women and sometimes overly ambitious, right? Not knowing how to get there. And then there are some people who are really underestimating themselves. So I think both of them, if I was to put them all together, it's more about self-awareness and the journey of getting there. It's not about, very often I find when I speak to people, and this is not to, put a specific nationality or, to say everybody is like this, but a lot of people that I have interacted with, from the UAE, like working within the UAE of different nationalities, most of them have the mentality of, if I learn or if I go for a leadership course, then I'm entitled to a leadership position. So it's like I said earlier, we talked about, the KSA, which is, do you have the knowledge, but you need experience with time. And it's also about, how you are, your mindset. So it's pretty much about learning about yourself. I think that's something, there needs to be more tools available, such as, for example, coaches and mentors. I think a lot of people, I find very often at the workplace saying, I coach my teams, but actually they're advising their teams. And I think advising people is great, but not when people are not asking for your advice, sadly, right? So coaching is all about empowering people, asking them the right questions and getting them to give you the answers, having them, holding them accountable for their decisions. So number one is self-awareness, but also coaching people, asking them, where do you want to be? What do you have to do to get there? What is stopping you? What are you going to do next? And then meeting them again and being able to, continue that discussion. We need more coaches, more mentors. That's, I think, the biggest thing that we're lacking. And when you hear that, to be honest, it's about quality also and not quantity when it comes to coaches as well. So having quality coaches, having quality mentors.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, if a woman wants to transform herself from an employee to employer, what kind of coaching you would like to advise them?
Okay. So first of all, I would understand what, where where they, I mean, what is their goal, basically. It would be a huge topic, you know, when it comes to opening a business. There would be, you know, a lot of things to take into consideration that would be broken down to a lot of different factors. It may be that I would even recommend a couple of people for her to speak to, you know, to be able to advise on certain things. But from my aspect as a coach, I would definitely, you know, ask from them, what is their goal? What does that company look like? Be able to create a realistic plan, you know, from the person's opinion. And it's almost they're creating their own plan, and, you know, allowing them to slowly get through, you know, each phase. It's almost like the discussion you had earlier of people say they want to do things, but then they're afraid of doing it and they don't do it. You know, they say they want to do it, but they really don't. So it's about holding people accountable towards doing it. So it's having that discussion ongoingly, but, you know, allowing them to come up with the answers. And I want to say why I keep repeating coaching them and empowering them and allowing them to you know, to be accountable, is because if I tell you, you have to do this by next week, most probably you're not going to do it, right? Because it's your life, it's your decisions. But if I ask you, what do you need to do? And that's what you tell me, and I ask you by when you would be able to do it, you're most likely to do it because it's your decision. It's something that you came up with rather than being forced to it.